another edition of Flea Market Fantasy, the world's second greatest Bronze Age era comic book podcast. Joining me as always is new Mike-O, Kevin Jank.
Hey, I'm here, and just a word of warning for everyone, this episode may be very adult-heavy. A lot of shocking things happening in Shocktober this year.
It's not approved by the Comics Code.
No, not at all.
So, Jank, why don't you tell the kids what we're reading today?
We're going to be reading Twisted Tales, issue number 4, from 1983, I do believe.
How did you find Twisted Tales? I had never heard of this book.
Me neither. I believe I was looking up, maybe even like last year, I've been looking up just horror comics from the Bronze Age, and I saw this listed on there, so I was like, all right, keep making mental note of that.
And the reason why you're looking for horror comics is because it's Shocktober.
That's right. I'll take some horror books. We didn't necessarily start it off last week, but now Shocktober's in full force.
I'm not so good with dates, and all the days blend together, so
yeah.
I have no idea. But yeah, a Shocktober officially begins this week with Twisted Tales, issue 4. Bruce Jones is the main guy behind this book. And we just encountered Bruce Jones. He wrote that Kazar issue we did, right?
Yeah. He's on an every other week schedule right now.
And but before we get into this book, Jank, let's remind everybody, if you're watching us on YouTube, please like and subscribe. We're down to 107 subscribers.
Oh, no.
We lost one. We lost one. Listen.
Son of a bitch.
Sometimes when you're a soldier in the Flea Army, you go out and you don't come back, you know? It's dangerous out there when you're fighting the war to take over Flea Market Fantasy.
You'll not be hit with bullets, but you will be hit with shame from disgust by everyone in your family and friend group.
We lost somebody to the shame, but let's remember the fallen. Let's honor them.
Yep. Appreciate you stopping by, going on a mission for us,
and congratulations on coming to your senses. See how long it takes us to lose the 107. But all right. So Twisted Tales. This is a horror anthology. There are 3 horror stories in the book. The company behind this is Pacific Comics.
That's what the PC is for.
That's what the PC
Not
stands
politically
for.
correct.
No, Pacific Comics. Kind of an interesting story about the old Pacific Comics. They were a comic publisher and distributor that operated from 1971 to 1984, and it started by brothers Steve and Bill Shanes. And they were just 17 and 13 years old, respectively, when they started this business. So, I know what the hell, Jack. These little kids are doing way more than I've done in my entire life.
Yeah.
They started Pacific as a mail-order company by placing ads in the Comics Buyer's Guide. Then they started running ads in some Marvel comics, which eventually led to them opening a comic shop in 1974 in Pacific Beach, California. They had trouble getting merchandise for the store, so they set up a distribution system that contributed to the rise of direct market distribution. Because in the old days, comic books would be distributed to newsstands. But if newsstands didn't sell the books, they sent them back, right? Wasn't that how they ripped off the covers?
Yeah.
So direct distribution would go right to comic shops, and it kind of changed the way comic books were sold. And so Pacific Comics, they were in the part of the movement to make that a popular means of distribution. And in 1981, Pacific started publishing creator-owned titles that were not subject to the Comics Code.
Yeah.
As you mentioned.
That's right. When you're not one of the big 2, you don't got to follow those rules.
Hell no. They're rebels.
Yep.
And they teamed up with Jack Kirby to publish Captain Victory and the Galactic Rangers. And I guess the way this partnership started was because they were distributing books and whatnot. Kirby he worked for other companies, and those companies would never give him copies of the books he drew or something. So these kids were like, hey, Jack Kirby, we'll give you free copies of the books that you actually created, unlike this company you worked for. So they started up a relationship, them just sending him free books that he did and stuff. And they said, hey, Jack Kirby, would you
like $2?
Yeah. Yeah. He's like, hey, Jack Kirby, would you like to do a book with us or something? And he's like, sure, kids. So he did a book with them. And it was Captain Victory and the Galactic Rangers. They hoped to sell 25,000 copies. It ended up selling 110,000. It's quite the successful venture.
Wow.
And then Kirby stuck with them, and he also did the series Silver Star. But Pacific, they worked with notable creators. Some other titles that they did included Mike Grell's Star Slayer, and we know Mike Grell from Green Arrow Longbow Hunter, right?
Yeah, big fan of his work on that for sure.
And Sergio Aragonés Gru.
Wow, look at that.
Neil Adams is Ms. Mystic, and Bruce Jones is Somerset Holmes. Steve Ditko also did a story titled Missing Man. I think it was for one of their like anthologies or something.
Okay.
Yeah, they worked with Kirby and Ditko, and pretty impressive. Now, by
not really at the height of their powers, but it's still good to get them in.
Kirby and Ditko.
It's like getting Sybil Danning in like 2008. It's not going to be her best.
He's taking a shot at Sybil Danning. By 1984, the publishing side was still making money, but the distribution arm was $740,000 in debt due to extending too much credit to comic shops that never paid up.
Ooh.
So, yeah. They said the way they managed their cash wasn't the best, so they folded up.
Bunch of Southern California guys probably just smoking pot and like going surfing all day. Not doing a lot of accounts receivable work.
No, not doing the old debt collecting either. Twisted Tales was a bi-monthly horror anthology. It was edited by Bruce Jones and April Campbell. It lasted 10 issues in its initial run from 82 to 84. Then an 11th issue was published in 1987 through Eclipse. Bruce Jones wrote all of the stories in the entire series except for 3.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I think there's like one in like issue 8 or 9. I don't know. But yeah, he basically wrote everything. But some of the artists that worked on Twisted Tales include John Bolton, who we will see in this issue, Brett Blevins, Bernie Wrightson, Mike Plug, Jackson Guise, and Val Myrick. So they had some name talent there. And we mentioned...
Had art by Bruce Jones in certain issues, apparently.
That's right. Bruce Jones drew the 3rd story in this issue we're doing today.
Yeah.
And the other artists are John Bolton and Don Lomax. I don't really know much about Don Lomax. Of course, John Bolton we know from X-Men Classic.
Oh, that's right.
He always did the backup stories in there, and they were always pretty great. He didn't do a lot of superhero stuff. He did mostly horror and fantasy and all kinds of things like that. But so not a lot.
Yeah, style seems kind of suited for that. I could definitely see that.
Yeah. But he's a hell of an artist. And John Bolton also did the cover for this issue. There we go. That's Twisted Tales. Anything else we need to know, Jank, about this before we start?
No. I mean, it's pretty much, it's a classic formula. These were the comics that I think made the comics code really come about. Like, it wasn't so much like even the early Spider-Man, where people had problems like, oh, kids shouldn't be reading this. It was this kind of horror comic, I think, that really brought that about.
You need that damn comics code. All right, so let's look at the cover. I don't know. The art by John Bolton is great, but how do you feel about because they divide the cover up into like halves here. The top half is bright yellow with Twisted Tales, and then describe the picture at the bottom there by John Bolton.
It's a pretty great picture. It's very pulpy and kind of like an old pulp novel.
Yes.
It's there's a woman in a cave, an underground cave, and she's kind of huddled up against the wall, like in terror at what she's seeing in front of her. And in front of her, there is a man's like head and kind of upper torso floating in the water, with half of his face kind of chewed off. And
you can see in the background there, like you mentioned, underground, and there's a little tunnel, and there's light coming out of an entrance, and you can see the shadow of some sort of creature.
Yeah.
So, and this is like a fully painted cover. So, yeah, it's pretty impressive. Good old John Bolton.
I like it a lot.
But how do you feel about the split cover, the top bright yellow with the Twisted Tales logo, number 4, and then the art in the bottom half?
I kind of like it. It's definitely a throwback, like I said, to those kind of 60s comics. So I think they kept that in there for, on purpose. This was not an accident. And I don't mind when they do things like this. Like when they did, Marvel did their Civil War, all the issues were kind of like that, where there was just like the picture either at the top or the bottom, and then there was like, a big white section of the cover, and it would say Civil War real big. And it made it look kind of classy. Like, I kind of like it.
It made it look classy.
Yeah. It was like this separates it from a normal book, so it's kind of cool. Even the Ultimate Universe, there was a whole thing for, like, the first couple of years at least, like, it was like, there were bars, essentially, like colored bars on either side, like vertical bars. Going on the right side and the left side, and then the picture was like in the middle, and it was usually like a big kind of just emblematic picture, like a profile shot of one of the characters or something like that. So Yeah, I kind of like when they do things like that to mix things up.
Yeah, they kept the same format for the covers, it looks, but like the color of the top section changes.
Yeah.
So, like for issue 3, it was red. So there you go. All right, so let's look at the book here. We open it up, and our first story is called The Well, and it's October 10th, 1954, and we see a young couple, I guess they're moving into a new house, and this fella, he wants to make the sweet, sweet love. He is super horny.
He doesn't even care that there's no window shades. He's just like, there's no neighbors. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So his lady there, and this is the lady on the cover, but they hear someone crying outside, right?
Yeah, they hear like in a room, like it sounds like a wolf or something. So I would not even go out there. I'd be like, nope, we ain't going outside to look for that.
Yeah, the premise of this is a little questionable. So but they go out in the backyard with the flashlight, and there's a well in the backyard, and the fella says, "Oh, I think there's an animal or something that fell down that well, so we should probably go help him." Climbs down the well.
So he's like, we got to put it out of its misery. So he's going to go down this dangerous looking well in the middle of the night, which seems like a bad idea.
Yeah. So he gets on the rope there and he scales his way down there into the well, and the lady's up there at the top, and she's like, Mark, you down there? And he's not responding.
So we should think about this after he's already down there.
So she goes down the well.
Go.
Now we have 2 people down in a well, and she's looking around there with her little flashlight down in the murky, it's like an underground cavern. And then we get the scene from the cover. She discovers his head in the water, and it's all chewed up. And he's dead. And she screams. I thought she was
going to find baby Jessica, but no, it was this guy.
Oh, baby Jessica. So she screams, and she's trying to run through the tunnels back to the rope. But she's having trouble climbing up the rope, can't get a grip. And
that's very slippery, which apparently she didn't notice on the way down. Like somehow that was an easy climb, but now it's super slippery.
And what happens to her, Jack?
She apparently becomes stricken with a disease where she feels the need to say everything that's happening to her out loud. It's very annoying.
Yes. Yeah, why not just make these thought bubbles?
Yeah, or narration boxes. There could be like a third-party narrator telling us what's happening. But yeah, well, she kind of slips down the rope, and lo and behold, there's a giant monster guy lurking below her, who is ripping her shirt right off of her.
Yeah, this monster knows what's up. He goes right for her clothes. That's what he
wastes no time.
He's just ripping off her clothes. And
he used to work at Miramax, so he learned a lot of things.
So now we get a shot of her. She's on the ground, and she's kind of waking up. She says, "Blacked out. I must have blacked out. How long? Ooh, head spinning. Creature, a nightmare. Mark, is Mark dead?" And there's
half of his face ripped off, and he was floating in the water.
But I think she's trying to say if that was just a nightmare or if it actually happened. She's trying to put it together. Yeah. But yeah, her clothes are ripped off. Her skirt is shredded, and there is nothing downstairs. Nope. She's not wearing anything down there. And there's a pretty strategic shadow that looks more than a shadow if you really look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. It could be a lot of things.
So
triangle.
Then she gets up, and again, her shirt's all ripped open. You can see her bra, though. She is not completely nude. And she sees, there's another naked lady hanging upside down, though.
Yeah.
And
her guts all ripped out.
Yeah, all her guts are ripped out. So her boobs are kind of like in shadow, and intestines hanging over them to keep her somewhat covered up. Then we get a close-up of the monster.
This is quite the creature.
How would you describe this guy?
Oh, boy.
Like an ant, maybe? Like an ant face?
Yeah, kind of an ant face. Yeah, I guess that's how I would describe it. It kind of looks like the creature that Jeff Goldblum turns into in the Fly towards the end, for sure. But the weird thing is, like, he's got mandibles on his face, but then he also has this weird kind of like mole-like nose. And then coming from that, he has like a hairy penis, like it kind of looks also like a scrotum and a wiener all at the same time.
Wow, you know what? I was assuming that was his tongue, but yeah, now that you mention it, it does look like. Yeah, how about that?
Quite the organ there.
And there are other devoured naked ladies around this cavern as well. With their bellies ripped out.
Right.
So she's all freaking out. You know, she's like, "Oh, I got to get out of here." She starts running. And does she hit the monster? Yeah, she like slaps him or something, right?
Punches him right in the head.
She's pretty tough. And again, she narrates everything out loud.
My chance to run.
Yeah.
You said that out loud. Path uneven, like stepping on. Which way? 100 corridors. Which way? That sound, that mewling sound.
Yeah, she's saying all this out loud.
Yeah.
And she turns the corner, and again, she sees more naked ladies with their bellies ripped out. And then there's a bunch of little monsters.
Yeah.
And they're like chewing on the naked ladies and stuff.
Yeah. Instead of like nursing, they're just flat out ripping her guts out.
It's young for feeding on the choke, the dead. Oh God, let this be a nightmare. Let this just be some crazy dream. The monster starts chasing her again. He's going for more clothes on her. She gets back up to that rope and she's like, I gotta climb this stinking rope. But there's a fella up at the top of the well now. And he's like, hello down there. She's like, thank God, the rope. Pull the rope, please. So the fella pulls up the rope and he rescues this foxy lady who's half naked. And he's like, hey, what are you doing down there, missy? And he's from the city gas company. He
seemed like very calm. So I was like, oh, is he like in league with this monster? Is he part of this somehow? But no, apparently he's not.
Yeah, this poor guy, you know, he's trying to save her. He's worked for the city gas company. He's like, there's a gas leak down in these wells. And she's like, because she and Mark, they thought they'd smelled some gas earlier when they were going to the well. And so she's like, there's gas down there? And he's like, yeah. So she goes, all right, hold on. She takes out matches from her skirt. And that was also mentioned earlier that she had matches in her skirt. She lights a match, throws it down the well, and just blows up the well and everything. That poor gas guy, like, just gets caught up in all this.
Yeah. Like the doctor mentions the gas guy didn't get it too bad. Like, you know, he just sprained his back, I think, and has a broken arm. But still, like.
Yeah, broken arm. What the hell? He's just trying to save this lady. And then, she blows up the well.
Him like, hey, back up a little bit before I do this.
Would that have been wrong? Like, just say, hey, buddy, thanks. But maybe go stand over there. So then, we cut to the hospital. She's in bed. She's got an eye patch on, and her arms are wrapped in bandages, and she's, covered up to her neck there in a sheet. And the doctor's telling her, the gas guy, made it out okay, but he's like, hey, lady, by the way, congratulations, the baby's safe and healthy, Yeah. You didn't lose the baby. And she's like, what are you talking about?
You'd be giving birth in a month. And she's like, what? But Mark was sterile.
Mark.
Dun, dun, dun.
No wonder Mark will say, he didn't care about putting a baby in her. He's ready to go. He's sterile. So she realizes, oh no, when I blacked out, that little monster had his way with me.
Yeah.
That's why all those other ladies are down there with their bellies ripped out, because they gave birth to those little monsters and they ate out of her belly, So she's like, oh no, I got an alien that's going to chew out my belly.
And I think they said like the explosion left her unable to talk for now. Like they're like, you'll get it back eventually, but so I guess she can't even try to tell the doctor that, I've probably got monster babies in me. You got to do something about this.
Well, pad and pen, hey, can I get a pen?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess she's got casts on her arms. I guess that might be hard, but you could do it. You could scribble it out.
So the last panel is just a close up of her face, like realizing, oh no, I got a monster in my belly. And that's how the story ends.
Yeah.
There you go. And John Bolton's on the art on that one, and I really like the art. He made her look good. And
classic art. It's very, very well done, I would say. A lot of dark shadows, a lot of just very old school pulp.
If you've never seen John Bolton's work, he's more like realistic, very true to life,
Maybe like not quite Barry Windsor Smith-esque, but more along those lines than, other things, I would say.
Yeah, even like Barry Windsor Smith, I think, is more line based in a lot of lines, and Bolton's more like smooth and clean, little few lines, just nice shapes and forms on the figures. Not overly dynamic stuff, but more like posed kind of shots.
I could see why he wouldn't want to do superhero work per se. Yeah. Probably not great at throwing punches, but.
That was a good little story. All right, so now we get Nick of Time. Oh, this is a beauty, this one.
As a mystery writer, you must have loved this one.
It is a mystery, all right. It is a mystery.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. Why don't you explain what's going on in this one, Jack?
Okay, so Nick of Time, we get this guy. who's got bad vision. He's got glasses on, but they're apparently not cutting it because they keep mentioning his bad vision problem.
That's very important to the story. The only way this even remotely works is if this guy's damn near blind. And also, he has no sense of touch, apparently, either. So
No,
we'll just
not at all.
work on that. But,
yeah, this guy is oblivious. Maybe it's fear, like just the anxiety of the situation is making him not think straight. But yeah, he's pretty oblivious.
And his hearing's not that great either, I guess, when you think about it.
Not at all.
So this guy's a potted plant, basically, is what we're dealing with. Yeah.
Yeah, so he gets home, and instead of turning on the lights, he just sees that somebody is there, and they've got a knife to his wife's throat. His wife is lying in bed, she's in her underpants, and somebody wearing a cap is got a knife to her throat. And he's got a really raspy voice. And he recognizes the cap. He's like, oh, that's this guy Kenton, who's like a friend of mine. Like, this isn't good. Because I've been banging Kenton's wife, so.
He can recognize the cap, but he can't recognize the body of the woman in the bed. But anyway, don't worry about that.
Yeah, I mean, they're really trying to think like, oh, he's blind and it's nighttime, but still, I mean, come on, dude.
It's ridiculous. So, hey, by the way, I mean, this lady in her underpants and bra, super foxy, very busty. Yeah. You think he would notice, you know, but apparently not. But anyway.
Not the brightest. He is a doctor too, so that's a scary thought. Yeah. But he's got a cool mustache, so I guess he's got that going. So this Kenton guy, he's like, yeah, I found out that you were banging my wife, and I'm not too happy about it. I tried to kill myself by drinking poison, like acid, I think. Like I was going to drink this acid, but it didn't kill me. It just kind of burned my vocal cords enough that now I sound this raspy.
Yeah, I sound like a woman disguising her voice like a man. Don't worry about that. It's because of this acid I drank.
Pay no attention. Yeah. Like I just drank this acid, but somehow I haven't bandaged myself up or anything, but I'm just fine. Just got a little sore throat now. He's like, okay, so yeah, I found out that you were having sex with my wife, and now I've got your wife, and if you don't want me to slit her throat, you're gonna have to go over to my house, where my wife is there, and I want you to get her wedding ring for me. Cause I'm a sentimental type of guy. So you gotta get that for me and bring it back to me. And, I got this little hourglass here. And if you don't do it before this hourglass ticks out, then I'm gonna, kill your wife.
I think it's only like 13 minutes too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess this guy's, lives like 4 minutes away or something. I think they say at one point.
Yeah.
So it's just enough time to get over there, do it and get back.
And while he's driving over, he starts remembering how he got into this mess, you know? Yeah. Because he's like, I love my wife, but why did I get with that other lady? And we see them at out together, the four of them. And you see that his wife is this blonde, kind of lean, thin-looking lady. And then the other lady is this super busty brunette. I wonder where he saw that before. And but he's like, real into her. And she makes I guess he was supposed to do a house call. This is back when doctors made house calls. Yeah. And
he doesn't want to. He's like, I don't do those, but clearly she's trying to get him over there to seduce him.
Yeah, and clearly he wanted to. So he just said no. But yeah, he shows up.
Yeah, if it was an old man Franklin, he's not going over there.
And right away, she just unzips her dress there. She seduces him hardcore, and so he has the affair with her. So now he shows up. Now we're back in the present day, Jank. He shows up at the house. Take it away.
All right, so he goes in there. Gloria's like passed out on the bed, like no waking her up. But he's like, oh, I guess Kenton gave her something to knock her out. And this stupid ring is really on that finger good. Like, oh, this is unnatural. How tight this wedding ring is on this finger here.
It is also unnatural. I never noticed when I was having my affair with this woman. She has man hands. What is going on with this lady's hands?
These hairy knuckles, yeah.
And her forearms. He doesn't notice any of that.
Nope, sure doesn't. So he's like, well, I guess if I'm going to get this ring off, I'm going to have to cut the finger off, I guess. The only way. And then he uses his cigarette lighter to cauterize the wound, I believe.
Yeah, so she won't bleed out.
Yeah. Yep. And then he's like, all right, time to drive back home. And he does that real quick. and he brings the wedding ring to Kenton with the finger attached, the very, hairy man finger. And he's like, all right, I did it. And Kenton's like, oh, okay, cool. Now I need you to go back again. I need you to get these earrings that I gave her. You gotta get those, and you gotta get there and, back and, same deal before the timer runs out.
And again, he's remembering back to where he's making sweet love to that other lady. And she's naked, but she's discreetly covered, so you don't see too much here. Then the cops start following him.
Well, because he's speeding because he's trying to get back in time.
And he doesn't he say, I'm a doctor or something, I got a patient I got to go see. And then the cop's like, oh, well, I'll lead you over there.
I'll escort you. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, he just flips out and cracks him in the face with his doctor bag, his satchel, and knocks the cop silly. And so now there's a big car chase between the cops following after him. And thankfully, there's a school bus that pulls out in front of the cop car. Or maybe just a bus. And so the cop car crashes into the bus, and he escapes. And he makes it back to the house with his supposed lover. And he has to get those earrings, Jank. And I guess he's not aware that earrings have little clips or you can unscrew the backs of them, because he just rips them right out of her ears.
I think he says something like, oh, these appear to have been welded together. I mean, you can see
Oh,
that.
really?
Yeah.
I missed that. Yeah.
You barely can't see the ear that, this is attached to, but whatever. Or the face.
Yeah.
He's kind of ripping the whole thing off.
You can notice that, but you can't notice anything else.
Yeah.
All right, so he shows back up at his house, and the guy's there still with the knife to his wife's throat. But now this time he found a gun at the other guy's house, right? So he shows up with the gun, and he's going to shoot him. And he's like, what does he say? There's no bullets in that gun, right? Does he say that or something?
I think so.
So he has to go do something else now too, doesn't he? Give him some other mission.
Yeah.
To do?
Now this Kenton guy wants him to go cut her tongue out so she can't ever talk about this affair again. And that's when he pulls the gun. He's like, oh man, I'm not doing that. And then Kenton kind of gives it up. He's like, oh, nice try, old sport, but I never keep that gun loaded, nor any shells in the house. And besides, Jonathan, old friend, what makes you think this is your wife? And he takes the wig off of the supposed wife that he's holding, and it's actually Gloria.
Yeah, it's the busty brunette who he's having the affair with.
Yeah. He's like, oh no, is that Jean that I've been cutting up this whole time? Like, did he switch him out? That's my wife, actually my wife. So he runs back, and he's like, oh no, Jean. And the cops are there, they're waiting for him. And it turns out that's not Jean there in the bed that he's been cutting up. It's Kenton.
Yeah, it's the guy, supposedly the guy with the knife, that Keaton fellow with the cap. It's actually him who he just had a wig on to make him look like a lady. What?
Yep, this guy is real observant.
So all the cops are there, and then don't they arrest him because they see a scalpel or whatever? So they're like, what are you doing with that scalpel? Then we cut back to the guy's house, and we see Gloria, the busty brunette. She's now talking to the guy in the cap. But that's not a guy in a cap. Who is it, Jank?
Why, that's Jean, the guy's wife.
Yeah.
Turns out that her and Gloria, the two wives here, they've gotten together. This was all planned to get rid of their husbands.
This is so ridiculous.
That was quite the twist. It was M. Night Shyamalan-esque.
How in the hell could he not notice?
Well, again, that's also M. Night Shyamalan-esque, where none of these people act like normal human beings.
But again, she is very well endowed up top, and his wife was not. It's like, you should notice that, I think.
Definitely was not. So.
Yes. The other was just a fella. And he's holding his hand, cut the finger off, and you don't notice it's a man's hand? I don't know. I guess the idea is clever, but there's no way this execution could ever work.
Yeah. The idea is good. It's just they needed to frame it, I think, a little bit better. But at least he wasn't narrating everything like in the first story, so I gave it credit for that.
Yeah, I'd say the writing was better in terms of the actual, interactions between characters and stuff. But the actual idea of the execution is impossible. That writing's terrible.
Yeah,
but
the story in the first one was simple but effective. It was just the dialogue that was bad. this one, like the story was kind of the failing part of it, whereas the dialogue wasn't quite as annoying.
It was super complicated and no basis in reality. This had less realism in it than the alien and down in the well impregnating the lady. That was more realistic than this one.
Yeah.
All right, so we get one more story here. It's called The Secret Place. We see a kid at camp, and again, the story and art for this one is done by Bruce Jones. And the art here is very, it's solid. It's a unique style. It's more realistic kind of comic booky art. But I mean, it's pretty impressive for Bruce Jones, a writer, doing this, right? I mean, hey, look at that.
I mean, I had no idea that he was, artistic. So yeah, that's pretty cool. It didn't stick out as being, awful or anything like that. So yeah, pretty good.
It's this kid. He's like a lonely kid. He doesn't have a lot of friends or whatever. He gets sent to camp, and he has a foxy mom.
He's mute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't talk, this kid, for some reason.
And he probably read those other stories, and it shocked him to death. He got Shocktober. Made him lose his voice.
I don't know about you, but this definitely reminded me a lot of Sleepaway Camp. Where Angela wasn't quite mute, but she didn't talk a whole lot. She kind of kept getting made fun of at camp, and a lot of Sleepaway Camp vibes going on here.
Yeah, so basically you just see this kid getting bullied at camp, and he's pretty low. He just likes to go off in the woods and read and stuff, but this one bully guy throws him into a little lake or a pond or whatever.
He's not wearing cutoff shorts or something.
Again, like
this is a whole ritual. Like if only like the coolest kid cannot wear cutoff shorts. He can wear what he wants. Very
much like Sleepaway Camp, where it's all cutoff shorts. And
there's a softball game that he's like, I don't want to be any part of that, but everyone else loves. Yep, very Sleepaway Camp.
So this kid, what he does is he goes, you know what? I'm going to go get a rifle off of that one a lot. He just goes and gets a rifle.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to shoot
that'll learn him.
Sons of bitches. But when he's going down to the pond there, he trips and falls or whatever. And he's like, I've never seen this part of the lake before. And there's a little deer running around. And he's like, oh, this is such a peaceful place. This is my secret place. But then out of the lake there, Jack, what happens here?
Some kind of a muckman looking creature comes out. Which I guess we quickly find out later is an alien. But it starts approaching him and he just runs away, but he kind of hears the thing saying friend as he's leaving. Yeah. So he's kind of curious now. Like,
friend.
Oh, is this thing friendly? Like, should I go back?
Yeah, he keeps thinking about it. So then he does go back and he's like, he's talking to the little guy and the guy's like, I'm your friend, And they're chatting it up.
Like, I'm trying to fix my spaceship under the water here, but I need meat.
I need meat.
Seems pretty random, but yeah, gotta have some meat.
I need meat. So the guy's still thinking about it. There's also like a camp counselor or something. And this guy's a real piece of work. But he's got some problems.
Yeah, he's the last person that should be watching children, apparently.
Yeah, but so the days go on there, and I hear old, I don't even know, what's this kid's name? Jimmy? I want to call him Jimmy? I don't know.
Sure, we'll go with Jimmy.
So old Jimmy, he goes down to the lake there in his secret place, but that one of those kids that was bullying him is now dead.
Yeah.
I find him dead. And he's like, oh no, and did I do that with my mind? Did I imagine all this stuff of my friend in the swamp lake there or whatever? So did I just concoct that story just so I had an excuse to murder that bully and like hide behind the alien monster that I created in my mind? So Jimmy's going nuts. Jimmy's getting a little loopy. So Jimmy goes back down to the lake with a rifle. Yeah, the little swamp guy comes out of the lake again. It's his friend, I'm your friend, Jimmy. So what does Jimmy do? He shakes his hand and thank him? No, what does he do, Jack?
Well, he blasts away with the rifle there. Just shoots him. Yeah. But apparently it just not only doesn't kill him, but it doesn't even make him mad. He's just like, still wants to be his friend. Because it turns out that it was not the swamp creature that killed this boy, apparently. The camp counselor guy was the one who killed this boy because he hates all children. Like his wife, I guess, died during childbirth, and he blames, the baby that also apparently didn't make it either. And so he's like, yep, all children are just useless. The world would be better, or the world would be happy without children. All children. I didn't want to kill the others. but I had to for the sake of the world. And he starts choking little Jimmy there. He's going to kill him too.
Yeah, and I like the coloring on these panels because it starts out yellow and bright, and then it gets orange and red as we go. And as he starts choking them, things get more orange and more red. And it's like, oh no, look out! And but just as Jimmy's about to get choked out, his buddy comes out of the swamp and kills the counselor guy, grabs him, and pulls him into the swamp. And I guess that was enough meat to fix his ship. So then his ship comes out of the lake there. It's a little gold orb, and it flies off. And that's pretty much it. And then Jimmy looks up at the sky and he says, "Goodbye, friend." Oh, you shot him. You tried to kill him.
And somehow, he still wanted to save your life. It's bizarre. That was a weird ending.
Yeah, Jimmy's looking up crying, "Goodbye, friend. You tried to murder him, like the last page. Don't you remember that?" I don't know.
It's like they like, we got to end it like E.T., even though this had nothing else in common.
Oh yeah, this is 1982. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
This definitely probably was, E.T. inspired. Maybe. Bruce Jones. Yeah, I don't know. This story was bad. I didn't like this.
Yeah. It didn't really have a lot going for it. I'll say that much.
Not at all.
The twist of the camp counselor just hating all children was really strange. Like,
hey, what if I also didn't like that Jimmy had such easy access to firearms. That was a line.
Yeah.
But what about this, Jank? What if all these stories are somehow connected? Like, what if that camp counselor was the baby that the alien or the monster put in the first lady?
Oh.
You know, and like he was that baby who was born and popped out of her belly, and then he was so sad that now he hates all kids. So he grew up to be a human. And then he murders all kids. I don't know. We're trying to put these all together. And then at some point, he had a wife who, that second story never doesn't fit with anything. So,
no, not at all. No aliens, just stupidity.
So there you go. That's Twisted Tales. That's kind of the entertainment you can get when you pick up a copy of Twisted Tales. I guess it was Shocktober worthy.
Yep, for sure. They're horrific.
All right, so how do you want to grade this? I think I like that first story. Like, again, her speaking out loud the whole time was ridiculous and terrible. But the John Bolton art was nice, and overall the concept of the story was interesting. You know, her realizing, oh, I got a monster in my belly. So I like that story.
Classic story without much twist, but you know, it was effective.
I think that's a solid 8, maybe. Just that story because of the art. And then the second one. It was interesting, but it's just, man, is that a mess?
I mean, it's memorable, yeah.
Yeah, in terms of logic,
I have to give it that, so.
Yeah, it makes no sense whatsoever. And the art is
it's almost like it's almost like a Mad Magazine style.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's very Mad Magazine style art.
Yeah.
Don Lomax. So I don't know. What would you give that one? Like a 4? I don't know.
No, I might go a 6 just because it was so weird that I kind of enjoyed it. Like I was kind of, where is this going the whole time? So
then the third one, I respect Bruce Jones for the art there. You know, it's impressive and I like the coloring on it. So, but the story itself was not good. And I don't know. Not a lot going on there. And the ending was really made no sense. I don't know. So I guess 3 or 4 on that one, maybe.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't go higher than a 3 on that one.
So let's see.
I watched Sleepaway Camp instead.
So if you average all that out, for me, I think we get a 5. So
that seems fair.
Yeah. So Twisted Tales issue 4.
I guess for a Shocktober book, I'll give it a 6.
Oh, there you go.
A 6.
I'll still give it a 5.
It delivered on what it promised.
But I liked seeing John Bolton. I haven't seen his art in a long time, so that was cool. It brought back those memories of classic X-Men. You remember that book, right? X-Men Classic? Because it started out as X-Men. Did it start out Classic X-Men? Or,
yeah.
Then they switched it around, right? To make it X-Men Classic?
Yep. Yeah, I think X-Men Classic was later on.
Yeah, it's so strange. But basically, they started out with issue 1. They reprinted like the first, like the Krakatoa stuff with like, is that what that island was? Krakatoa? What is it?
Yeah, Krakoa.
And where the new team came together. So it just reprinted all the early issues of the new team. It started, what was that issue, like 93, 94? It started out there, and then in the back, there'd be a new material, like a new little story, I don't know, 6 to 8 pages.
Yeah,
and
page back story, yeah.
Yeah, John Bolton always did that art. And they were always like, they weren't like adventure really. They were like kind of a quiet, character-driven stories of the ex-team members, how they interacted and stuff. So I always liked those.
Like in between the scenes types of things. Like, oh,
Yes.
just like you weren't privy to this before, but some of them were pretty cool. I definitely remember some good Phoenix ones that kind of filled in some gaps there. Made some stuff I think that happened later on make more sense.
No, I remember a couple good ones like Nightcrawler and Wolverine going out in the town having a drink or something. But I think the first one, it had like Jean Grey, Wolverine, and the triangle there with Cyclops. Like there's more details fleshed in there about how Jean Grey is attracted to Logan and whatever. So, yeah. So there you go. John Bolton. Go check out his work. But yeah, Twisted Tales issue 4, I get 5 from me, a 6 from Jank. And that's how Shocktober starts. All right, Jank. So next week, it's my pick. And I was thinking, remember I mentioned some DC book called Night Force I was going to do? But then I looked into it. It looks kind of boring. So I don't think we're going to do that one. So there was a book I wanted to do last Shocktober, and we ran out of weeks, sadly. And I never got to it. So you know what? Let's do it this year. And we're going to go Tales of the Zombie issue 5. From, I think this is 1974, if I'm remembering properly. Let me check my notes here. Yes, Tales of the Zombie, issue 5 from 1974. This was Curtis magazine, like the black and white magazine. What, did we do a Curtis before on here? I think we did, right? Or
I don't know. I don't think I did. Maybe you did with Mike Al.
Yeah, Marvel do these magazine format black and white anthology things. And this one's all like zombie related stuff. And so, because this character, I think his name is Simon Garth, but I remember growing up, you would see him places. Yeah. Oh, so you know about this guy?
Yeah, not a whole lot, but I definitely remember hearing about him.
Yeah. So we'll check this out. Now, just read the zombie story at the front, because
okay.
It's like 90, I think it's 70, 80, 90 pages or something. But the first story is like 20, like a normal comic book. And then you get some interviews and stuff, some like articles about zombie stuff. And then there's a couple other little backup stories, but you don't really have to read those if you don't want to.
Sweet.
So
just zombie.
Yeah, just focus on the zombie. And we'll get into that. So there you go. That's next week. Tales of the Zombie issue 5. And again, please like and subscribe us because we lost somebody in the Flea Army. We lost somebody.
Yep. We need some fresh recruits. New blood.
No one said it was going to be easy, So, all right. But until next week, hey, have a happy Shocktober, and don't get any jank on you.